Virtual Mechanics. Thanks for clicking and welcome to a several-part series on getting started in scrap mechanic. The first was an overview of what the crash site surroundings have to offer with the crash course in farming and gathering. Scrap cars short, plus a tour of powering up the mechanic station and its craft bots. It included a slightly more advanced first vehicle with working suspension and upgraded gas tank, additional trim packages that make resource gathering far more efficient. We also covered the biomes that make up the map and points of interest in that video, so if you're just getting started in the game, some of those might be helpful in steps to obtaining a Spud Gun. Check the chapters for specific topics too. Today's video is focused around materials needed and the approximate locations involved in how we can get our hands on some projectile weapons. There are some bots in the game that make guns rather necessary. The ammo for the guns is potatoes, so perhaps the next topic will be creating an automatic farming system or some other way to regularly produce the ammunition needed for 2 players. At least one of us plays first-person shooters regularly, trustworthy, so I'm expecting a carry with his skills. I'm better at building things, and for this task, we're going to go through a build of a semi-truck and trailer to haul larger cargo loads. The first being pallets spit out by the packing plants for location spots throughout this rather large map. This truck will probably get used for a whole lot more though, future cross-map building projects or moving bases. I've got a lot of parts in the craft bot, so I might as well use them. And on to step 1. We might as well get started on the farming part of this task first, especially since this can take a while depending upon your farm size. The end purchase criteria is 2 blueberry crates, 2 orange crates, and 1 caged farmer. What this consists of ends up being a bit more than what we considered. In order to get the blueberries and oranges, we have to trade for those seeds first, unless you're highly lucky with seed drops from the golden crates, which didn't happen for us. So the surefire way is by trading up red beets and tomatoes for the blueberry and banana seeds. 3 pallets required to purchase the seeds, bringing us to a total of 30 tomatoes and 30 red beets. So that's a good reason to get started on these as soon as possible if you're not already holding on to a stash. To avoid triggering a raid, keep the crop value 9 or under. With these 2 particular crops, that's 9 plants. At 10, you start attracting nightly visitor bots to the farm. There's some different farming methods, from mini crops that are spaced out to placing one out of reach for the bots or building base defenses. For now, we mini farmed a single crop while continuing to gather and make vehicles. What about after you're done growing the tomatoes and red beets? This is where the location comes in. Maps will all look different, but there's some similar points of interest. What's relevant here is the 4 packing stations and the 1 trader hideout. There's usually a packing station not far down the roadway from the mechanic base. If you've been out exploring much, maybe you've already seen what this looks like. This is a vegetable packing station. It accepts tomatoes, red beets, as well as carrots and broccoli. The fruit will have a separate station further down the street. Step 2. To get to this portion of the job done, we've been using the survival truck due to easy height loading. As the billboard suggests, you can back a truck up to anything with a large chest mounted to it. Attaching a vacuum pump with a switch blows the produce into the packing station stocking base. Out the other side shoots an 8x8 pallet of whatever went in. Individually, we hauled each pallet up the hill to the north behind the closest packing station to the mechanic base, because that's approximately where one might find the trader's home. You'll know when you do, because you'll find the trails plastered with keep out signs. Unloading of the pallets is easy, push of a button easy after parking the pallet on the platform. The count goes immediately to the trader's inventory, who can be found in the metal building off to the side. Upon running up to him, he will come a-wavin'. Orange and blueberry trade up. Since most harvests return back a few seeds, it's not likely that you'll run out even with such a small amount. Just keep cycling. Here's where the motor-driven project comes in if you're not wanting to haul these individually. There was plenty of downtime between crops to create. I started with a concrete chassis to provide weight and durability to the creation, but also to use up all the excess stone that we've gotten. Paying attention to the space placement on the wheels in mind with how to balance out the weight of the machine overall. I'm still working on getting the hang of it here. The center of gravity can really trip you up a lot. There's 6 wheels in total with this build, and it may be altered one day to 8. But it also means 6 suspension parts, in this case short ones with small pipes for holding it in place. Easy level suspension setup level 1 here, consisting of curved and straight pipe pieces. Don't forget at least the 2 top bearings on the front suspension for the steering in addition to the ones that attach the wheels. With a seat and engine, this is going to provide the foundation for any format one wanted to use from here to stylize the truck. Real-life mechanics, don't forget to locate your 10mm socket. Eventually we'll be building something with modification because not even our own self-made vehicle can be left stock. The back is narrowed as a hitch mounting area for the gooseneck trailer soon to be constructed. This is where the engine is going as well. The mess of the connecting tool, the dots can be hard to select or drag to. This is more of a cab over design, even if the tiny engine is behind the seats just to keep it all compact. But one could extend the front for extra storage. Building this all as a single piece despite best efforts to use the welding tool. It just rotates everything at off angles when attempting to attach a trailer to the small SUV. So at the back landing, I'm placing bearings and a pipe to act as a swing hitch and keep the height clearance up. If you intend to use this regularly for pallets, they're 8x8 in size, you will want to scale up wider than this trailer build by another floor of blocks to accommodate 2 pallets side by side. This particular version easily moves the 4 we opted for, but could viably have held 6 or more with clever stacking. With this vehicle's long-term use prospects, I preferred to keep it a little smaller to weave through dense foliage. It's up to you to configure a trailer that's convenient. This one had a shelf for a chest and garden supplies, or perhaps extra gas cans to further supply the 2 containers fixed to the sides. I did a few short test drives, wasn't sure how the trailer would do or if it would affect the suspension. This game is really quite clever with how it incorporates factors of real-life physics, even if occasionally that turns to wacky producing of some unrealistic results. I have found that this is the cause for many funny moments when the physics become counterintuitive and a cow goes randomly flying up into the air, because that happens in real life all the time, right? I laughed until fighting for breath when Trustworthy tried to test my first ATV. Let's just say it was bad, and crashing in this game is pretty cartoonish. Using wood to keep it on the lighter side, this eventually starts to take shape into something that at least sort of looks like a semi-truck, or I hope so. With a little patience, we'll get better at this. It's a good idea to put the seat down, not just as a general polite practice, but we don't do a quick connect tool check on the hookup before dropping it off the lift. The suspension just collapses, and that's not going to get us anywhere. So if you've ever wondered why your front springs bunch together like a little kid that's got to go pee after dropping it off a lift, that's probably the issue. Check the seat connection to the 2 front bearings. And if you don't want a runaway vehicle, make sure the engine is also connected to the seat controls. Otherwise, with a dedicated fuel container like these attached, your engine will just power itself up and take off. Needless to say, that particular funny moment has already happened too. I had to chase my SUV into a lake. This game is prone to some pretty hilarious mistakes, and among the things that makes it so dang good, sometimes we're just our own adversity. It's a good thing that I put off painting anything for so long, because once starting, it elicited a reason to farm every single paint pigment flower in sight. The staining effect comes out nicely on the scrap wood. The different material textures show through, and that's a really nice touch by the devs. Thank you! Thank you for all the many cool toys in the game. Like the controller, we're going to use one of those to create a functional tailgate for the trailer portion. First challenge is figuring out where and how to mount the bearings that will be able to swing freely, so that they're going on the sides here with extended arms. Using the connection tool, link the controller to the bearings and the switch. Now let's fiddle with this controller until we get both the starting angle and the activated switch angle to our liking. The starting angle should be set up at 90 degrees. This way it will take the bearing from extending the arm from a horizontal position to vertical. This would be the upright closed position with the switch off in the first column. The sequence we want is simple. Just a gate down for the trailer, and depending upon the length of the gate, we need a slightly lesser angle for it to reach the ground. My mouse is laggy. Oh! Moving the second column angle about 135 to see how that looks. And we're about good. As you can see, more complicated sequences can be added and also collaborates with timers. I'm gonna have to think about how we can apply this to future projects. I've chosen to go with some pirated metal roofing from a roadside fruit shack for the ramp, hoping that it would make it easier to roll some of the caged farmers, since that's the final piece needed for Spud Gun trade. And with that, we have our large transport vehicle now. So, step 3. What's next? Fruit. After exchanging vegetable crops for fruit seeds, get another round of crops going right away. This time you'll need 20 of both. Keep in mind the crop values for the fruits are different from the vegetables. Orange, blueberry, and banana seeds are a crop value of 2 each, meaning only 4 can be planted while still avoiding the raid trigger. If you're feeling confident, go ham! On to the next step. While that's growing, it's exploration time to locate some caged farmers. Tips on places to look for them are locating battered campsites, commonly found in the charred timber remains, but also within the autumn biomes. Watch out for a horde of haybots around the camp. We can't carry them, you've got to smack them with a sledge, and this is where the truck with the ramp trailer can come in handy. This scene right here is why you want the ramp. We happen to find a farmer on a test drive, but there isn't a swing hard enough to launch these dudes. Between trustworthy, superior Rocket League skills and my curling acumen, we managed to get it there, but it still took 15 minutes. As my grandmother would used to say, where there's a will, there's a way, but I don't recommend this way as hilarious as it was. And the final step. Finding the fruit packing plant is usually just a short trip away from the first, but consists of the same loading process via chests and vacuum pump. By this time the semi was finished, and while I could have done bigger loads, 2 would have been necessary anyway to complete the run, so I stacked up with blueberries and oranges into separate deliveries, testing to see if that disconnected hitch piece was going to hold. I don't exactly know why that happened, perhaps a more veteran builder can enlighten me. Still but a noob, just trial and erroring my way through it. You might as well clobber some bots with this rolling mass if they're gonna dare cross the street without looking as you haul heavy loads back up to the trader's hideout. Just drag it under the rear wheels, it won't last long. Maybe it'll leave behind some loot. The trader's giant vacuum will pick up each crate with a big red button push, and you can now triumphantly dash up to get your prized potato gun. That was a lot of work, but totally worth it as we try to progress further into the game's more dangerous areas. Hopefully this video will be helpful on your survival journey, and that you're having tons of fun with Scrap Mechanic. We're definitely hooked. But I also just ticked a few games off of my Steam wishlist, so there'll be a few game reviews coming too. Excited to share what's out there to eat up all of our boredom. Not that those hours couldn't be burned up in creative mode just making some cars, so I'll fish up some science podcasts to go with those builds. There's totally some topics to relate here. Back to building, so take care y'all, and bye-bye!